is what happens when Tom Ways and Icon Vehicle Dynamics do whatever they want. And I respect that, because I do whatever I want. Check this out. 180. I'm in Johnson Valley, California to look at one of the most extreme race cars I have ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen a ton of friggin' race cars. It was built to fly over man-sized boulders, catch air off of sick jumps, and hit top speeds of over 130 miles per on dirt. It was built to be the king of the hammers. What does that mean? Well, buckle up, buckaroo, because I'm about to show you. It's time to go bumper to bumper on a freaking Ultra 4 race car! Ultra 4 racing is quickly becoming one of the biggest segments in the off-road world, with King of the Hammers being its crown jewel. What is King of the Hammers? Well, back in 2007, some dudes took their trucks out to the desert to see who's the fastest through the trails. It was 11 friends and some dude who just happened to be out there at the time, but they would eventually call themselves the OG-13 because it sounded better than the OG-12. These days, the race has grown from 12 guys racing for a case of beer to over 300 racers fighting for a $100,000 prize. To put that into perspective, $100,000 buys you 200 pairs of Vans. Speaking of hundreds, competitors have to brave 3 laps around one of the most treacherous tracks ever devised for a total of 300 miles. That's a track that's 100 miles long. 94 to be exact. It features fiendish ravines, cliff faces taller than Big Bro, and rock gardens that look like another freaking planet. The goal for many racers isn't winning, but simply finishing in a short time. King of the Hammers has earned a reputation as the most demanding single-day race in the freaking world. Look at these So, how do you build a car that can win? Well, Tom Ways thinks he's figured it out. This is his Ultra 4 race car. There are a lot of classes at King of the Hammers, and this car runs in the top dog class, the mightiest of them all, the 4400 Ultra Unlimited. Lots of other racing series have tons of rules that level the playing field, making sure that no competitor has an unfair advantage. But the only rule in Ultra 4 is there are no rules. It's like modern day Group B. Besides safety stuff, you gotta be safe. But after that, you can do whatever you want. Let's start with the outside. Unlike other rock crawlers or desert racers that you guys may have seen, this car is completely 100% custom. It's not built on an existing chassis. It's not a Jeep. It's not a Yoda. It's not a whatever. 100% custom built from chromoly steel. That's like the same stuff that they made my BMX bikes out of. Shout out Hoffman. As you can see, it's a totally twisted net of tubes and lines. But as much as there is to take in, the reality is there's no excess, no extra, no weight. Everything on this car serves a purpose, and that purpose is to go fast on fucking rocks. This race happens in the day and at night, so to help with the nighttime portion of that are these Baja Design XL80 LED lights. And this thing has 10 of them. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lights on my truck. Below the lights are the first skid plate on the car. They call it the egg roller because this motherfucker does work. The steel on it is the same stuff they use for gun targets. So when you're shooting a gun, it's like ting, 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 ting. That's this metal. And then right under it, it's basically a shock absorber. It absorbs a lot of the... Speaking of rocks, it's hard to bounce over them if you don't have good suspension. This car is outfitted with custom-made Icon Vehicle Dynamics coilovers consisting of a 2.5 coilover setup and a 3.0 4-tube bypass shock. That's freaking 4 shocks on the front of the car. A According to the driver, this car has many inches of suspension travel in the front. Apparently it's a secret. I have so many secrets I would love to share with you. I killed my dude. Having such insane travel is objective number one in off-road racing. If you have crappy suspension or limited travel, all that abuse is going straight to your frame and something's gonna break. And if something breaks out here, you could be on your own for a while. Section 829 of the Ultra 4 rulebook actually states that every car has to carry enough water, food, and supplies for the driver and his co-driver to survive for a day. Get me a fucking chopper, bro. This car rolls on 40-inch BF Goodrich KR3s. They may look like the tires on the Simi Valley Bros Brodozers, but these guys are not street legal. These are my people now, dude. I love the dessert. So these aren't fake beadlock that you get at AutoZone. Beads? If you don't know what beadlock is, all these bolts right here are attached to a plate which literally presses the bead between two pieces of metal so you can run it at ultra low pressure without debeading the tire. I talk a lot about body panels on this show because that's kind of the point of this show, and this car is no different, but it's just gonna be a lot shorter because there's a lot less body panels on it. Now, unlike something like the McLaren Senna, these are not made of carbon fiber, but custom aluminum. And this isn't paint, this is a vinyl wrap. It probably costs $4. It's very short. It's quality though. These panels really only exist to protect the driver from rocks and debris. So good job, panels. Let's see if I can fit in this thing. A lot of car media types, myself included, love calling performance interiors Spartan. This is a race car, and nothing in here serves any other purpose than keeping the driver safe and operating this race car. These seats are Cobra Suzukas, a seat used around the world in all kinds of racing. The biggest thing I noticed is that there's no friggin' windshield. Your helmet is your windshield. There's no gauges like a normal car. The main thing you see is your GPS unit. Then directly to the right of that is your Motec unit, which allows you to pay attention to what's happening back here. Tons of switches. There's a siren, an engine, an oil, a gear, upper lights, lower lights, cockpit lights, fuel pump 1, fuel pump 2, lots of light stuff. Also in the cabin is a fire extinguisher and a fire suppression system in case things get hot. I've been told not to pull it. According to the rules, another fire extinguisher must be stored outside of the car, so officials or fellow racers or fans can aid you in the situation of your car being on fire. Also, there are air and hydration systems to keep you breathing and drinking in the hot ass desert. As much as this car is about conquering no man's land, it really gives you the sense of a life support system, which gives the term live to race an entirely new meaning. Behind the driver is the heart of this Badlands beast. This Ultra 4 is powered by a General Motors LS7. Surprise, surprise, it's the best engine to put in anything, which is the same engine, as you guys already know, that powers the Corvette. But this one, yeah, she's a little bit more extreme. On top of the engine is a huge 8-inch tall, 16-inch round air filter. Cause out here, you need a friggin' air filter to keep rocks and sand and mud and crap from getting into the internals. On top of the LS7 is a single plane intake manifold allowing more air to get into the engine. As we all know, more air plus more fuel equals more boom, which means more power, baby.
More power, baby.
More power, baby. How much more power, baby? A ton more power, baby. This thing makes 800 horsepower. Obviously, it takes more than an intake manifold and an air filter to make 800 horsepower out of an LS7. Naturally aspirated, I'll remind you. But Tom wouldn't tell us everything else he's done to this engine because it's a very competitive class, and that's top secret, baby. Top secret, baby. And here's a little bumper to bumper fun fact about this motor. It's mounted backwards. They didn't do this just for gits and shiggles. There are a few crucial reasons why they did it this way. Let's dive in. The first reason is packaging. Now that the engine is backwards, the transmission is in the center of the car, which allows them to shorten the wheelbase. Hello? Yeah, Pumphrey, do you want a super long car limiting your maneuvers on the rocks? No! Give me the one as short as possible! Now we might have to make the engine backwards. Do whatever you gotta do! Okay, well, thank you very much then. I'll talk to you later. Bye, Mom. The second reason is ground clearance. Because the engine is backwards, what used to be the front drive shaft now powers the rear. The rear differential is now offset to the passenger side. So when that rear tire goes over a big rock, the pumpkin is lifted higher up into the air, giving it more clearance. Less bashing, more finishing the race. The rear drive shaft also runs parallel to the rear trailing arm, which helps to protect the shaft from rocks. And hey, we all know protecting your shaft from rocks will prevent a disastrous breakdown. The weird, spooky engineering doesn't end there. In the front is a Ford 10-inch differential with a low-mounted pinion gear. It's where the drive shaft mounts to the axle. But in this car, the differential is mounted upside down, so the pinion doesn't get in the way of the rocks. And it's the same on the back. Rule number 1, make it fast. Rule number 2, make sure it don't break on rocks. I was talking to Tom for a while, and I said, hey Tom, what's this thing like to drive? And he said, James, it's a lot of fun. And you know what? I believed him, because Tom is a solid guy. Now, normally when I talk about suspension, I'm not standing next to it. This looks like a Neil Blomkamp movie. District 9. See how the evening go. I'm turning into a bug. Up top, we got a spare drive shaft in case that breaks. Just like in a drift car, the radiator is in the back, or as Forsberg would say, the radiator.
The radiator.
One of the most ridiculous exhaust setups I've ever seen. Mounted super high. Apparently 30-ish% for looks, but also to just get those bad gases out of the way. Which leads us to the fuel tank, which has an undisclosed capacity and an undisclosed range. You don't have to report how much gas you have in it. This is truly a run what you brung event. And nestled on top is a spare tire and a jack, just in case you need that. To build an Ultra 4 can take anywhere from $280,000 to $300,000, sometimes more. But when you end up with a car that can crawl, jump, and skid on any terrain on Earth, I'd say it's worth it. Thanks for watching Bumper to Bumper. It's a new show every Tuesday. Up to Speed is still every Thursday, so check back in on that. Follow Donut Media on Instagram at Donut Media. Follow me on Instagram at James Pumphrey. Watch this episode of Up to Speed. Watch this episode of Bumper to Bumper. Smash that like button. Subscribe. It really helps us out. I love you.